DARPA stands for Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. It is an agency of the Department of Defense, and it is where all the military's new technology is created, and since war is the greatest catalyst of research and change, DARPA is where basically all of the world's new technology is created. So, behind its walls there are some amazing and extraordinary things going on. It's almost like a modern-day Area 51 in that nobody really knows what's going on behind the doors, but everyone knows that it is something powerful and incredible. So as a result, much of this episode will probably be outdated because I unfortunately do not have access to the top secret information, but hopefully it will be as close as you or I could get. DARPA is unique because it is in a different category from the other sectors within the DoD. I won't go into the technical and legal details, but it basically means that DARPA is free from most bureaucratic encumbrance and entanglements, and so its $2 billion budget is used relatively effectively. DARPA was established in 1958 to bridge the science gap between the United States and the USSR during the Cold War. The USSR had just launched Sputnik, the first satellite, before America. America got worried, and in addition to instituting mandatory math and science classes in all its schools, a policy which continues to this day, America founded the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, which can sometimes be referred to as just the Advanced Research Projects Agency, or ARPA. During its original creation, the atomic bomb example was used many times as a justification for such a branch of the DoD. After all, both the Axis and Allies were trying to develop nuclear weapons during World War II. America got it first, and of course it prevailed. However, Germany could have just as easily got it first, and then things could have been drastically different. So thus, in this example, technology saved the day and prevented the Americans from being surprised. The idea behind DARPA, therefore, is to make sure that America surprises others rather than gets surprised. Other examples that I found in a book called War Made New by Max Boot, which I would recommend reading if you are interested about revolutions in military affairs, or RMAs, include the fact that many great empires missed major military revolutions and lost their power as a result. The Mongols missed the Gunpowder Revolution, the Chinese, the Ottomans, and the Mughals missed the Industrial Revolution, the French and the British were delayed in reaching the Second Industrial Revolution, and the Soviet Union missed the Information Revolution. Even the British Royal Navy, which had survived and remained supreme from the age of sail to the age of steel, lost out to the age of the aircraft carrier. DARPA currently has 7 program offices: the Strategic Technology Office, Defense Sciences Office, Information Processing Technology Office, Information Exploitation Office, Microsystems Technology Office, and the Tactical Technology Office. Now I will talk about some of the major innovations that DARPA has been responsible for since its creation in 1958. Transit satellites, which were the first operational navigation satellites, the first GPS, or Global Positioning System, Saturn launch vehicles, which were the rockets used in the Apollo programs to send people into space and famously to the moon in 1969, the VELA satellites to monitor nuclear explosions from space, the M16 rifle, which you can learn more about in the Retiring the M16 episode, the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, or ARPANET, which is the predecessor of the modern-day Internet. DARPA invented the Internet, and I don't think you can deny that is no small feat. On a related note, DARPA also invented the first computer mouse, the first firewalls, and speech recognition software, which is now available on all computers with Windows XP or above, so it's quite a universal and useful invention. DARPA also invented the Army Tactical Missile System, which is a surface-to-surface missile system, the Joint Surveillance Target Attack Radar Systems, or JSTARS, which are airborne jumbo jets which serve as mobile command and control stations, stealth fighters, including the F-117 Nighthawk and the B-2 Spirit, which you can learn about in the Raptors and Spirits episode, stealth ships, including the IX-529 Sea Shadow of the U.S. Navy, which you should try to find a picture of because it looks quite unusual, but I will try to describe it, If you took a black piece of paper and folded it long ways, that is, hot dog style, and then rested the paper on the water so that the ridge was pointing straight up, that's what the sea shadow would look like. It is very thin, and it looks like it has walls, but nothing in between the walls. DARPA also invented the Mimic computer language, Taurus rockets and Pegasus rockets, infrared detectors, which are those red-colored maps of different temperatures that you can find on submarines as well as other ships and planes, the cruise missile, which you all already know about, the Predator and Global Hawk UAVs, which you can learn more about in the Military Robotics Airborne episode, the engine for the F-35 Lightning, the Joint Strike Fighter that is scheduled to be deployed in 2011 as the brother to the F-22 Raptor, which is the newest generation of America's Air Force, microelectrical systems, which are miniature components and devices that can lighten the load of a new vehicle or the common soldier, the X-45 Prototype Unmanned Combat Aerial Vehicle, or UCAV, and if you've seen the movie Stealth, this is the real-life equivalent of the UCAV depicted in the movie. And lastly, mobile robots, such as the MDARs, the TOV, the Talon, the Swords, and the PackBot, all of which are described in the Military Robotics Ground episode. In fact, DARPA has sponsored Grand Challenges, which are races for unmanned vehicles over rough terrain and through many obstacles. The best driverless car of the 2005 competition was Stanley, a Volkswagen Touareg, which was made by Stanford University. DARPA is currently directed by Anthony Tether. Under his leadership, DARPA has focused on 9 major areas based on what a future commander might need, not what a contemporary commander might want. These 9 areas combine to form a revolution in military affairs. This revolution in military affairs is going to be a significant shift in military history, akin to the gunpowder revolution that incorporated firearms, the industrial revolution that incorporated rifles and railroads, the second industrial revolution that incorporated tanks and aircraft, and the information revolution that incorporated computers. All of this is according to Max Boot, the author of War Made New. The first major area is to have robust, secure, self-forming networks, i.e., strong network-centric warfare capabilities. This includes better security for the all-important networks, networks that can be created faster, the increased use of high-quality GPS systems, the construction of 1 square centimeter-sized atomic clocks to ensure that everyone involved is operating at exactly the same time, and the construction and deployment of EMP bombs as an aggressive type of network-centric warfare. On a related note, an EMP bomb was rumored to have been used in Operation Iraqi Freedom in order to take down Iraq's command and control centers. The second major focus area is the detection, precision ID, tracking, and destruction of elusive targets. This includes the Predictive Analysis for Naval Deployment Activities Program, or PANDA, to chart every single naval vessel's normal behavior and then send a warning signal if it deviates from this normal behavior. It also includes laser systems and surveillance systems that can be detailed enough to see what weapons the targets are carrying before the strike begins. And it also includes the Combat Zones That See program that plans to set up surveillance cameras everywhere in a target city and have them be accessible from a single database so that the enemies can be constantly tracked. And there have been accusations that this program is Orwellian and will lead to tyranny if it is converted to domestic situations. The program is similar to the United Kingdom's programs right now, which involve monitoring the United Kingdom with over 4 million government CCTV cameras armed with facial recognition software. The cameras in the Combat Zones That See program can be as small as hummingbirds and could even take on the appearance of hummingbirds and rest on windowsills inconspicuously. The third focus area is urban area operations. One program in this area is the Advanced Soldier Sensor Information System Technology, or ASSIST. This program is used by patrols, and patrols, after they go on their patrols, can log in what they've experienced and what they've seen, or what they're as of yet unsure, into the database with the purpose of allowing the next patrol to have as much information as possible and so that the next patrol can gather all of the information that's ever been gathered on their patrol area so they can go in with as much knowledge as possible. Another piece of technology within the urban area operations focus area that is being developed is called the radar scope, which is a AA battery-powered flashlight that can see through walls. There is also the boomerang system, which can detect enemy fire before it even hits, and it can determine which direction it's coming from, so theoretically, Allied soldiers can start shooting back before the enemy bullet even reaches them. There is also real-time adversarial intelligence and decision-making, which allows officers to program in everything they know, how many enemies, how they are armed, etc., and the program will spit out estimates on where else the enemy is and suggest a possible course of action. There's also the Command Post of the Future program, which allows commanders to pack up and move their command post whenever they want and be able to quickly set it up in the new place with almost no delay. This would be combined with the Personalized Assistant That Learns, or PAL program, which basically puts all information available on a single screen so that a general can see the big picture and then zoom in on an area without having to walk over to the next room. Lastly, DARPA is also constructing video games that are incredibly realistic in order to train soldiers to deal with ambushes, problematic civilians, and to learn to speak Arabic, and so on. America's Army and Full Spectrum Warrior are two video games which were originally used to train soldiers in this way and now sell on the public market. The fourth major area is Advanced Manned and Unmanned Systems, which you can learn more about in the 2 military robotics episodes. This includes the Falcon UAV that can go up to Mach 10, the Fire Scout unmanned attack helicopter, the hypersonic cruise vehicle that can fly at 15 times the speed of sound and act as a starfighter that can fly up and take down enemy satellites, and the Switchblade UAV, which looks like a jumbo jet's wings except the engines are in the middle and there is no fuselage or tail. It's just wings. There are also unmanned tankers and cargo carriers in development, as well as a low-cost autonomous attack system that is a 100-pound bomb that can fly by itself and hover for 30 minutes until it picks a good target, and then redesigns its own warhead to fit the situation and do the most damage. All of this while in midair. So the trend is clearly towards unmanned vehicles. In fact, the U.S. Congress has declared that 1/3 of all deep strike aircraft should be unmanned by 2010, and 1/3 of all ground combat vehicles should be unmanned by 2015. The fifth major area that DARPA is focusing on is the detection, characterization, and assessment of underground structures, to help soldiers operate more effectively despite being underground. The sixth area is space, which revolves around the principle of maintaining the U.S.'s space supremacy, since it is the ultimate high ground. And you can learn more about this in the PLA threat episode. In fact, Donald Rumsfeld, who is an ardent supporter of the RMA, once said that the U.S. should watch out for a space Pearl Harbor, implying that an attack that disabled U.S. satellites would be equally or more devastating than the actual Pearl Harbor attack of 1941. After all, satellites are fairly easy to destroy because all you have to do is release a bunch of marbles in the satellite's orbit, and the satellite will run into it and be heavily damaged, since even though the marbles aren't moving that fast and aren't that big, the satellite is moving at over 14,000 miles per hour. Of course, doing this would be harder if the satellite had its own defenses, which are being developed, which include some form of deployable shields, maneuvering jets, anti-satellite munitions, or allied escort satellites. Almost like a carrier battle group in space. Going back to Rumsfeld, the former Secretary of Defense was known for his ardent support of the RMA in the form of Raptors over radios. The phrase Raptors over radios refers to the equivalent costs of one F-22 Raptor or 3,000 soldiers for a year. The former represents the high-tech and the latter represents the low-tech. Under Rumsfeld's Department of Defense, America has chosen the Raptors. And whether Raptors or radios is a better course, many people have opinions, but nobody really knows. It's important to know about the concept raptors and radios, though, because it is the major fault line among RMA activists. Now back to the satellite topic. One weapon that is being developed to be launched from satellite is the Rods from God program that can hurl tungsten rods down to Earth. These rods from God travel 7,200 miles per hour so that they can destroy the target with just its force rather than with any explosives or radioactivity, of which it has none, which gives it a moral advantage over nuclear weapons. The seventh major focus area is the increasing the tooth-to-tail ratio of the U.S. military, which means more combat troops and fewer support troops. This includes more technologies to do the tedious things, one example of which would be the Global Autonomous Language Exploitation System, or GALE system. GALE currently operates in 2 languages, Arabic and Chinese, and it can translate text or speech on the fly with an 80% accuracy rate. Currently, the U.S. military hires local translators, but that can be dangerous for obvious reasons, so it's much better to use the program. DARPA has also developed a pocket translator called the Phraselator that can recognize around 12,000 phrases spoken into it with a 70% accuracy rate. The 8th focus area is biorevolution, which has 4 sectors. First, protecting human assets. Second, biology to enhance military systems, which includes a new version of painkiller which, unlike morphine, doesn't knock out some basic human functions, and the idea is to send the drug right into the pain sensors near the wound so that nothing else is blocked off. The third sector of biorevolution is maintaining human combat performance, and one way they're doing this is by copying genes from whales or dolphins and giving the soldiers the ability to rest only parts of the brain at a time so that they can go on without sleep for long periods of time. Another program involves rewiring the cells of a soldier so that he can live for days without food via essentially eating his own fat. The 4th major area of biorevolution is restoring combat capabilities after severe injury, which includes full-scale regeneration of body parts by copying genes from tadpoles and starfish, and or sealing the wounds through willpower alone. DARPA's 9th and final major focus area is the core technologies area. One program in the core technologies area is called Slow Light, which attempts to basically slow light down and bottle it for use as a power cell later. Light is a very powerful thing, and DARPA is trying to harness it, and so that's a very difficult thing to do, but the rewards are great. Other core technologies include the development of new construction materials that improve upon steel or aluminum or titanium or other metals. By making them smaller, for example, a general can eventually command an entire army from a Palm Pilot, theoretically speaking. Other things DARPA is doing in the core technologies area include defining entirely new mathematical concepts. In other words, they are searching for something as enlightening as Newton's laws, so this is really big stuff we're talking about. Then, of course, there is the always-present proposal to build laser weapons like those seen in Star Wars. The advantages of lasers are that they are 160,000 times faster than a bullet, meaning that they give the target less time to escape. They are also more accurate than regular munitions, and they are cheaper to use than bullets, and they basically never run out of ammo. The disadvantages of laser weapons include the fact that lasers can be deflected by water and clouds, and the fact that lasers travel perfectly straight, since they are light, meaning that they cannot cover large distances because they do not follow the curvature of the Earth. We have come sort of close with things like the Humvee mountable non-lethal anti-personnel lasers that lightly burn people within the area of effect, or with plane mountable lasers that can knock out incoming missiles. But as of right now, we still do not have the basic laser blaster rifle, although there is no doubt that somewhere someone is trying to make one. Perhaps the most amazing thing to come out of DARPA is the concept of the Future Warrior battlesuit, which relies on nanotechnology, which as of now is scheduled to be completed by 2032. If you played the Splinter Cell video games, it's very much like the suit that the protagonist wears. The battlesuit would contain all sorts of tiny wires that would allow the soldier to connect to the command post through video, audio, and text. The helmet would contain a GPS screen that would display where the soldier and all his allies' objectives and terrain obstacles were, as well as have a night vision option, a thermal vision option, and 360-degree vision. The suit would contain active camouflage technology, which would sense the surroundings and adapt the color of the suit accordingly, much like a chameleon. The suit could also sense nearby radiation or chemical or biological irregularities and close its pores to adjust to the climate. When incoming shrapnel or bullets were sensed, the suit would harden and become many more times stronger than Kevlar. If a soldier walks near a bomb, the suit would start beeping because it could sense the bomb, and then it would send the signal to all Allied soldiers nearby, and all the suits would harden simultaneously. To prevent the soldier from getting too cold or too hot, the suit has built-in AC and a built-in heating system. If the soldier is wounded, the suit can act as a cast or as a bandage, and it can automatically administer antibiotics, and it can send a status report to the nearest medic, who can then determine what to do next. The suit would contain an exoskeleton that made it so that everything the soldier was carrying felt lighter. A recent test at one of the research universities for the Future Combat System showed that a bag with 160 pounds worth of stuff only felt like 5 pounds. And, for reasons that are beyond the extent of my scientific knowledge, the new suit can augment human muscles through electric currents. The suit would also implant directly into the brain, so that the soldier can call in reinforcements or airstrikes just by thinking about them. Other aspects of the military transformation, or RMA, include a reorganization of the U.S. military. Instead of using divisions as the standard unit, the military is shifting towards using brigades. Modular combat brigades include infantry brigades, striker brigades, and heavy armored brigades. There will also be support brigades, including aviation brigades of helicopters, fire brigades of artillery, battlefield surveillance brigades of UAVs and recon troops, and maneuver enhancement brigades of MPs and chemical defense troops. This whole reorganization, known as the Future Combat System, relies on the Future Combat System Network. A variety of new vehicles to supplement these new super soldiers armed with battlesuits mentioned above are also being developed. There are medical vehicles, command vehicles, mortar vehicles, artillery vehicles, combat vehicles, and transport vehicles, all of which are armored and mobile. The weapon that the soldiers themselves would carry is codenamed the Modular Rifle Caseless, which looks a lot like the H&K G11 rifle, which I won't go into now. This concludes the DARPA and the RMA episode, but I would still keep an eye on DARPA because it is the future of military history, so it's well worth keeping an eye on.